And joining me now to discuss Dame Joan's cultural contribution is Lyndon Terracini, the Artistic Director of Opera Australia. Lyndon Terracini, welcome.
Thank you, Joe.
Now, what was your initial reaction when you heard the news?
Oh, it was shock, really. We had a wonderful fundraising event last night and everyone was in great spirits. And then immediately after, to get the phone call to hear of Joan's passing, even though we knew she'd been sick and in fact very ill for quite some time, it was still a shock. And I think the whole company and indeed the many thousands of people who were fortunate enough to hear Joan in performance are saddened today.
When do you remember first hearing of her or hearing her?
Oh, I think growing up as a young boy interested in music in Sydney, and Dame Joan was of course a legend even then. And I was fortunate enough as a young singer.
So what period is that?
Oh, well, that was in the 60s, late 60s, and then as a young singer I was fortunate enough to sing in some performances with Joan when her husband, Richard Bonning, was music director of the Australian Opera, as it was called then. And apart from being the greatest opera singer that Australia has ever produced, she had this aura about her, and she would light up the rehearsal room when she came in and inspire everyone to do better than they would normally do just by being Joan. And she had just had this extraordinary, open, generous, vital personality. Well,
as well as being about Dame Joan, the person, it's all about the voice as well, that incredible voice. We didn't all grow up in that era. So we might just take a listen now to a little longer segment. We don't get to play much on TV news of opera singers, but we might just listen to a little longer segment of that voice. A bit of La Stupenda there. Now, from a fellow singer's point of view, what is so special about that voice?
Oh, I think you hear from that recording too the beauty of it, the size of it, the range of her voice. You simply don't hear voices like that these days. It was unique.
And tell us a bit about more about your experience with her. How many operas did you appear with her in over the years?
Well, I was a very young singer at that time, and it wasn't a large number of operas like many other people did. But I can say that it was tremendously inspiring to hear Joan and to be on the same stage. And then often, at the end of, I remember Lucrezia Borgia that she did here at the Sydney Opera House. She had an enormous aria at the end of the opera that was particularly difficult, and particularly after a long night singing. And I remember standing in the wings, and I would, when I finished, go and stand in the wings and hear her sing it. And it was just one of those things that you'll never hear again, and to be inspired by that was something quite extraordinary.
And we're seeing some shots there of her with Richard Bonning. That was a critical relationship over the years?
Tremendously important. Richard felt that Joan's voice could sing this repertoire that was a lot higher and lighter than what she'd grown up singing, and encouraged her to do so. And that's where she had this tremendous success and found, I guess, the voice that we all know and still love.
Yeah, I saw a comment from him this morning saying that he found that she had this voice that just didn't stop.
Well, that was the sensation that I think everyone in the audience felt too. I mean, she was a tremendous communicator to an audience. I think not only with this extraordinary voice, but her personality really embraced the audience. But certainly the top of her voice, it just seemed as though it was effortless, that it just would continue. as high as she wanted to sing.
And was she intimidating? Although we hear comments this morning that she was so gracious and friendly that it doesn't sound she was intimidating.
Well, she did have a tremendous aura about her. And when she did come into a room, you felt that. But as soon as she introduced herself or started talking to people, she was very accessible. So I don't think she was intimidating once she was on a one-to-one basis with people. But on a stage, you may feel that because, as I said, she had this tremendous aura and this tremendous presence as well. That was a wonderful attribute for any singer to have.
Do you think Australia has fully appreciated her talent?
Well, it's difficult to say. I think the many, many thousands of people that heard her sing probably do. But as generations change and younger people who didn't have the opportunity to hear her, perhaps they don't appreciate what an extraordinary individual Dame Joan was and how phenomenally talented she was.
And what is her legacy here in Australia in terms of the prominence of opera?
Look, you can't overestimate the contribution that Dame Joan Sutherland made to the cultural life of Australia. But certainly, specifically with opera, we wouldn't have the sort of operatic life we have in Australia now if it hadn't been for Dame Joan Sutherland. And also the generosity of spirit that she demonstrated in giving of herself so much and sharing that talent with so many Australians and also younger singers that she was tremendously interested in.
Okay, Lyndon Terracini, thanks so much for coming in.
It's a pleasure, Joe.